Everyone in the city knew him as a successful man with a perfect life, someone who had everything people admired: wealth, influence, and respect. But behind closed doors, he carried a secret that he dared not share with anyone. A secret so precious and delicate that revealing it could change everything he had worked for. He had married a woman he loved deeply, a woman unlike anyone he had ever met. She was strong, beautiful, and full of life, but her skin color made their marriage complicated in the eyes of the society he moved in. They had met years ago at a quiet cafe, where she had been working as a part-time writer while finishing her studies. He had been drawn to her smile, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, and the warmth in her voice that made him feel at home. They had spent hours talking, laughing, and discovering that despite coming from very different worlds, their hearts beat in the same rhythm. Soon, friendship turned into love, and love turned into a promise to be together forever. They knew that the world might not accept them easily, but neither cared when they were alone, holding hands in the safety of their private world. The wedding had been small, almost invisible, attended by only a few trusted friends and a couple of family members who knew the truth. There were no grand announcements, no photographs shared on social media, just a quiet ceremony where they exchanged vows and promised to stand by each other no matter what. After the wedding, their life together was a mixture of joy and caution. Every morning began with smiles and whispered, "I love yous." But every evening was shadowed by the worry of being discovered. They built a home filled with memories, laughter, and love. Yet outside, he continued his life as a single man, attending parties, meetings, and social events where no one knew the truth about his wife. She became his secret treasure, someone he protected fiercely. But this protection came at a cost. She often felt lonely, missing the freedom to walk beside him in public, to be recognized as his partner, to share their happiness openly. Sometimes she would sit by the window of their home, watching couples walk hand in hand, wondering if the world would ever allow them the same simple joy. Despite the secrecy, their bond grew stronger. Every challenge, every hidden moment, every whispered word in the dark made their love deeper. He admired her patience, her understanding, and the way she never complained about being hidden. In private, they laughed, danced, and shared dreams for the future. But outside, he constantly measured his words, calculated his appearances, and lived in a delicate balance between truth and fear. He worried about family judgment, public gossip, and the potential damage to his career if anyone discovered his secret. Sometimes he imagined what life would be like if they could be open, and the thought filled him with hope and sadness at the same time. She, on the other hand, tried to see the positive in their situation. Believing that their love was strong enough to withstand the walls of secrecy, she encouraged him when he doubted himself and reminded him that their happiness did not need anyone's approval. Their mornings were filled with coffee and soft music, their evenings with heartfelt conversations and quiet laughter. They shared small adventures together, exploring hidden parts of the city, going on late-night drives, and writing letters to each other about their dreams and fears. Every moment felt precious because it was theirs alone. The city outside remained unaware of their bond. But in their home, there was a universe built on love, trust, and the courage to keep their hearts connected despite the challenges. Yet, beneath the love and the laughter, there was always a shadow, a small but constant reminder that secrecy could only last so long. Every time he left her alone to attend a social event, he felt a pang of guilt. Every time she smiled through the loneliness, he felt a mix of pride and sorrow. Their love was beautiful, but fragile, like a delicate glass sculpture that needed careful handling, and they both knew that one wrong move could shatter it all. And so, their life continued, a dance between happiness and fear, love and caution, every day strengthening their bond, but also testing their patience. They lived in a world that did not yet accept them. But within the walls of their hidden life, they had created a world where love was enough, a world where their hearts were free even if their public lives were not. This was the beginning of their story, a story of love hidden in plain sight, of secrets kept for protection, and of two souls who chose each other despite the risks. a story that would soon face challenges neither of them could fully predict. Life in their hidden world continued, but the weight of secrecy began to press more heavily on both of them. The husband remained careful, always calculating what he could say, where he could go, and who might notice anything unusual. Every outing required planning. Every social event required vigilance. He could not risk even a single slip, and the thought of anyone discovering his wife filled him with unease. The wife, on the other hand, felt a quiet frustration building inside her. She loved him deeply, but being hidden from the world made her feel like a shadow, present but unseen. She longed for the simple joys of walking beside him, being acknowledged as his partner, or laughing openly at a party without fear. Despite this, she never let her frustration turn to anger. Instead, she channeled it into subtle acts of asserting her presence. A soft smile when he least expected it. A gentle remark in private that reminded him of her intelligence. Or a quiet decision to do something bold on her own. The tension between love and restriction created an unusual rhythm in their relationship. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the city lights, she finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Do you ever think about what it would be like if no one knew we were hiding?" she asked. He looked at her, a shadow of worry crossing his face. "All the time," he admitted. "I want people to know how amazing you are, but I fear the consequences. I fear losing everything we have." She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "I understand, but hiding me like this, it sometimes feels like I'm invisible, like my life only exists because you allow it to. It's not just about you protecting me anymore. It's about letting me live." Her words struck him deeply. He realized that while he had been protecting her, he had also unknowingly confined her. The realization made him question the balance between love and control, between care and freedom. Days passed, and subtle cracks began to show in their carefully constructed life. Friends started asking questions. Relatives noticed her absence in photos and social gatherings, and even his colleagues began to make curious remarks. The husband felt the pressure mounting. Every interaction with outsiders became a challenge. He had to remember who he had told what to, who had seen glimpses of her, and who might piece things together. Meanwhile, the wife began exploring small ways to assert herself. She would attend social events on her own, disguised or incognito, just to taste the freedom she had been denied. She would visit bookstores, cafes, and art galleries, leaving behind small notes or sketches for him to find, little reminders that she was alive, independent, and unafraid. These acts of quiet rebellion made their private life richer, yet more dangerous. The husband admired her courage, but also feared the consequences. He knew that one mistake could expose their secret and ruin everything they had built. Yet, at the same time, he could not suppress a growing admiration for her bravery. Their relationship evolved in these months, from a hidden romance to a delicate dance of trust, independence, and understanding. They learned to communicate without words, to anticipate each other's needs, and to share moments of joy in the silence of secrecy. One rainy night, as they sat by the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass, she turned to him with a mischievous smile. "You know, one day I might just surprise you and show up somewhere you least expect me." Her words sent a thrill through him, a mixture of fear and excitement. He knew she was serious, and part of him longed for that moment, even though another part dreaded it. That night, neither spoke much, but both understood that their hidden life was changing. The wife's desire for recognition, for freedom, was growing stronger, and the husband realized that he could no longer protect her by keeping her invisible. He had to start thinking about how to face the world together, not apart. And so, their hidden life continued, more intense and complicated than before. Every glance, every conversation, every small act carried new meaning. Love was still at the center, but trust, independence, and courage had joined the dance. The stage was quietly being set for a moment that would shake their world, a moment when the hidden life could no longer remain hidden, when love would have to confront society, fear, and expectation. And both of them, in their own way, were preparing for that moment, ready or not. The tension between them had grown quietly, almost unnoticed, until small cracks began to appear in their carefully hidden life. The husband was still devoted, protective, and deeply in love, but the constant fear of being discovered was starting to wear him down. Every meeting, every phone call, every social event required careful planning, and even a single slip could unravel everything. The wife, meanwhile, had begun to feel restless, her patience tested by the endless secrecy. She loved him. Yet she could not ignore the longing in her heart to be seen, to be acknowledged, to exist openly in the world alongside the man she loved. One morning, as the sun poured through their bedroom window, she stirred him awake with a playful nudge. "Do you ever wonder if people would even notice if I disappeared for a day?" she asked softly. He frowned, his brow creasing with worry. "I notice everything about you, every moment, every word. I just don't want anyone else to." She smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I know, but sometimes I feel like I'm trapped, like my life belongs to the shadows. Not just yours, but the world's, and I want more than that." Her words lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. That afternoon, the husband met with old friends at a cafe, pretending to be single, laughing and joking as if nothing was different. Yet in his heart, he carried a quiet unease. Every glance at a passerby or a comment from a friend reminded him of the secret he guarded. Meanwhile, the wife decided to take a walk in the park. Wanting to feel the sun on her face and breathe freely, she wandered past families and couples holding hands, and each joyful moment made her own heart ache with desire for freedom. She found herself sitting on a bench, sketching the scene before her, capturing faces, laughter, and movement. Her sketchbook became a silent rebellion, a small act of existence outside the walls of secrecy. Later that evening, as they reunited at home, a tension simmered beneath the surface. Neither spoke at first, but the silence was heavy, filled with unspoken words and quiet frustration. Finally, she broke it. "You can't keep doing this forever," she said, her voice calm but determined. "I can't keep hiding, and neither can you. Every day we pretend the world doesn't exist is a day we lose a part of ourselves." He looked at her, feeling the truth of her words pierce through him. He realized that in his attempt to protect her, he had also limited her happiness. "I know," he whispered. I don't know if we're ready, if the world is ready for us." She shook her head, a small, determined smile forming. "We have to be ready, even if the world isn't. Love shouldn't be hidden. It should be lived boldly and openly." The night deepened, and they sat together, hands intertwined, hearts beating in sync. Both knew that change was inevitable. The wife began making small plans, subtle steps toward asserting herself in the outside world. She researched social events, art shows, and gatherings she could attend, carefully thinking of ways to test her freedom without completely breaking the rules. The husband, torn between fear and admiration, realized that her courage was part of what had drawn him to her in the first place. Every time she acted independently, he felt both pride and anxiety. Their conversations became more honest, more open, exploring fears, desires, and dreams. They laughed about small things. But beneath the laughter was the undercurrent of tension, the knowledge that one bold move could change everything. One evening, as they planned a quiet dinner at home, she casually mentioned an invitation she had received to a high-profile party. He froze, his mind racing with possibilities and dangers. "Do you think it's safe?" he asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. She smiled mysteriously. "Sometimes you have to step into the light, even if it's risky. Sometimes hiding only makes you smaller than you are." That night, the thought of the party, of her showing up, of the world finally seeing her, lingered in his mind like an approaching storm. He didn't know if he was ready for the consequences, but a part of him understood that their hidden life was reaching its breaking point. The wife, confident and determined, felt a thrill of anticipation, sensing that soon their lives would face a turning point, a moment when love, courage, and truth would collide, and neither of them could ignore it any longer. The invitation arrived on a crisp morning, slipping quietly under the door like a whisper of change. The husband picked it up, scanning the elegant script, feeling a mix of excitement and dread. It was for a high-profile party, the kind where appearances mattered more than anything. where whispers traveled fast and secrets had little chance of surviving. He turned the envelope over in his hands, his mind racing with the possibilities. "Should we go?" he asked hesitantly, glancing at his wife, who was sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. She looked up, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "Of course we should. Why would we hide forever when we have the chance to be seen, even for a moment?" His heart sank slightly, knowing that the world outside was not ready for them. Yet he couldn't deny the thrill of showing her off, of having her by his side for everyone to see. She stood, moving closer, and rested a hand on his arm. "Don't worry so much, love. Sometimes taking a risk is the only way to grow. Sometimes hiding only makes us smaller." He swallowed hard, feeling the truth in her words, and nodded. "All right, we'll go. But we must be careful. Every step, every word, every glance matters." The days leading up to the party were filled with tension, planning, and quiet excitement. She tried on dresses in front of the mirror, laughing when he made silly comments about her choices. They rehearsed how they would enter the room, how they would greet people, and how to keep the balance between being noticed and being discreet. Yet beneath the laughter and preparation, there was a simmering anticipation, a silent understanding that something big was about to happen. On the evening of the party, the city glimmered with lights and music. People arrived in elegant gowns and tailored suits, laughter and conversation flowing like a river. The husband adjusted his tie nervously, glancing at his wife, who looked stunning, radiant, and completely alive. "Remember, stay close, stay calm," he whispered, but she only smiled, her eyes glinting with mischief and confidence. They entered the hall together, moving gracefully among the crowd, exchanging polite greetings there. Presence drew curious glances, whispers passing from one group to another. Some recognized him immediately. Others whispered about the mysterious woman by his side, yet no one knew the full truth, and for now, that was enough. She moved with ease, laughing softly at comments and compliments, her confidence a stark contrast to the hidden life they had led for so long. He watched her, torn between pride and anxiety, realizing that every glance and smile carried a power he had never fully appreciated. As the evening progressed, she began speaking with other guests, charming and intelligent, her voice carrying through the room. People noticed her wit, her grace, and her beauty, and he felt both awe and fear. Then, with a quiet boldness, she introduced him to a group of influential people as her husband. Without hesitation, without apology, her words were like a spark, igniting a storm of curiosity, gossip, and admiration. The husband felt his pulse quicken, unsure whether to be proud or terrified. But the way she stood there, unafraid and radiant, filled him with a sense of awe. He realized that hiding her had never been the answer, and that her courage was something to celebrate, not suppress. The night continued with laughter, conversations, and subtle power plays. Yet in the back of his mind, he knew this was only the beginning, a small step into the light, but a step that would have consequences. The wife's presence had shifted everything, and their hidden life could no longer remain unchanged. As they left the party later that night, the city lights reflecting in their eyes, neither spoke much, but both understood the new chapter had begun, a chapter where secrecy, fear, and caution would collide with courage, freedom, and truth. And deep inside, they both knew that soon, the world outside would have to face them as they truly were. The night of the party had arrived, and the city buzzed with lights, laughter, and whispered secrets. Inside the grand hall, the husband moved among the guests with controlled composure, glancing occasionally at his wife, who had been quiet for most of the evening. His mind raced with anticipation, wondering if she would stay by his side, as she always did, or if something unexpected would happen. He felt a strange mix of pride and anxiety, sensing that tonight could change everything suddenly. A ripple passed through the crowd, subtle at first, then growing into a wave of shocked murmurs. He turned toward the source and froze. His wife had appeared at the party, but not as anyone had expected. She walked in confidently, radiant and smiling, accompanied by another man, someone tall, charismatic, and clearly noticed by everyone in the room. The whispers became louder, and eyes followed her every step. People exchanged surprised glances, trying to understand the situation. Who was this man? Why was she with him? The husband's heart pounded in his chest, a mixture of shock, fear, and something he could not name. As she approached the group, she laughed lightly, her voice carrying through the hall. Calm and self-assured, she introduced the man casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and the husband realized, with a jolt, that this was her choice, her statement, a bold assertion of independence and presence. People began to speculate, whispering to each other, some judgmental, others curious, but all captivated by the scene. The husband tried to collect himself, stepping closer, but she gave him a small, reassuring smile, letting him know that she was not undermining him, but expressing herself. He could feel the tension crack in the air, the delicate web of secrecy he had built beginning to unravel. Yet beneath the shock, there was a strange pride, a recognition of her courage. The wife moved through the crowd gracefully, laughing, talking, and commanding attention without arrogance. Her confidence shone, drawing people toward her, including influential guests who had previously ignored them. The other man stayed slightly behind her, a supportive presence, making it clear that this was her choice, her moment. The husband watched, torn between fear and admiration. Understanding that the life he had tried to protect was no longer hidden, he realized that her boldness was a test, a way of showing him, and everyone else, that she could no longer be confined. The crowd's reaction was a mixture of shock, curiosity, and admiration. Many whispered about the scandal, others about her courage, but all were captivated. The husband's mind raced, replaying every year of secrecy, every night of hidden dinners, every moment of quiet protection, and he knew that from this point forward, their lives would never be the same. They would face gossip, judgment, and perhaps even ridicule, but also admiration, respect, and a newfound recognition of their love. As the wife approached him, her eyes sparkled with mischief and determination. "Do you see now?" she whispered. "I cannot live in the shadows anymore. I need the world to see me, just as I am." He nodded slowly, realizing that her presence, her courage, was something he could no longer contain. It was a turning point, a moment of revelation. And though fear still lingered, it was accompanied by awe and respect. The night continued, conversations flowing, whispers spreading, yet they stood together, united in love and defiance. For the first time in years, he saw her fully, not hidden, not silent, not confined, but radiant, powerful, and unapologetically herself. And deep down, he knew that this bold act would change everything, not just for them, but for how the world would see their love. Their hidden life had ended, and a new chapter had begun, one filled with risk, freedom, and undeniable truth. The party had ended hours ago, but the energy of the evening lingered in their minds. The husband sat alone in the car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, his heart pounding. He replayed every scene in his mind. The whispers, the stares, the boldness of her choice. Part of him felt panic, imagining the fallout. Yet another part felt awe at her courage. When they finally arrived home, the silence was heavy. Both aware that the night had shifted something between them, she walked inside, removing her heels and letting out a soft laugh that carried a hint of relief. "You're quiet," she said. Noticing the tension in his posture, he ran a hand through his hair, trying to collect himself. I don't know what to say. I'm shocked, confused, and proud all at once," she smiled faintly, moving closer. "I know. That's exactly how I wanted you to feel." His chest tightened, a swirl of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "Why did you do it?" he asked quietly, almost afraid of the answer. "Why risk everything?" She took a deep breath, her eyes calm but determined. "Because I couldn't stay hidden any longer. I couldn't live in the shadows. Every moment we spent hiding, every lie we told, it made me smaller. It made us smaller." He looked at her, finally seeing the depth of her resolve. "I wanted to protect you," he admitted. "I wanted to keep you safe from gossip, judgment, and society's harsh eyes. I never wanted anyone to hurt you, or us." She reached out and took his hand, holding it firmly. "I know. And I appreciate it. Truly, I do. But protection without freedom isn't love. It's fear disguised as care. I need to exist, to be seen, and to live fully, not just behind closed doors. Her words pierced him, yet they carried no accusation, only honesty and clarity. He realized that in trying to shield her, he had unknowingly confined her. I understand, he whispered. I've been so focused on fear that I forgot what matters most. Us, our love, and your happiness. I can't take back the past, but I can change how we move forward. Tears threatened to fill her eyes, but she smiled, a mixture of relief and hope. That's all I wanted, to be heard, to be understood, to know that we can face the world together, not just hide from it. They sat together on the couch, hands intertwined, the city lights casting a soft glow through the windows. The air was thick with emotion, a mixture of regret, understanding, love, and relief. For the first time, they spoke openly about everything. The secrecy, the fear, the longing for freedom. Each word, each confession, built a bridge over the distance that secrecy had created between them. They laughed softly at the memories of stolen moments, whispered jokes in the dark, and the times they had almost been discovered. But the laughter was tinged with the weight of realization. They knew that their hidden life could not continue, that change was inevitable. That night became a turning point, a moment of truth that would shape their relationship. Forever, she explained her perspective further, telling him how each day in hiding had felt like a small betrayal of herself. I love you, she said softly, but love without visibility feels incomplete. I needed to remind the world, and myself, that I exist, that I am part of this life fully, not just secretly. He nodded, his heart swelling with admiration, realizing that her strength was something he could no longer contain or question. They talked about the future, about facing society together, about embracing the risks and the freedom that came with truth. Every fear he had felt began to transform into a cautious hope. Every doubt gave way to a growing respect for the woman he had chosen to spend his life with. By the end of the night, they had reached a new understanding. Their bond, once tested by secrecy, had grown stronger through honesty, courage, and mutual respect. They had faced the consequences of the party, and though the world outside might not be ready for them, they had decided they were ready for it. Together, they would step into the light, hand in hand, ready to face judgment, admiration, and everything in between. The hidden life had ended, and in its place, a new chapter had begun, one built on love, truth, and the courage to be seen fully and unapologetically. The morning after the party, the city seemed different, buzzing with whispers and curious glances. Everywhere the husband went, subtle stares followed him, and he could almost hear the questions forming in people's minds. Friends and colleagues approached him cautiously, some with smiles, others with curiosity tinged with judgment. "So, is she really your wife?" someone asked quietly. "Try not to offend." The husband nodded, his chest tight, a mixture of pride and anxiety swelling inside him. The wife, meanwhile, had embraced the new day with a quiet confidence. She walked through their neighborhood with her head held high, sensing the shift in how people looked at her. Some nodded politely, others whispered among themselves. But she no longer felt invisible. She had chosen to step into the light, and now the light was finding her. Their home, once a sanctuary of secrecy, now seemed alive with possibility and tension. Every phone call, every message, and every knock at the door carried potential gossip, curiosity, or judgment. Friends who had known them for years suddenly acted differently. Their expressions, their words, everything hinted at the shock of discovering a secret that had been carefully guarded for so long. The husband felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He had hidden her to protect her, to keep their love safe. But now, the world was aware, and he could only hope it would accept her as he did. The wife, sensing his unease, reached for his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "It's okay," she whispered. "We knew this day would come. And now it has. Let them talk. Let them speculate. We have nothing to hide anymore. And that is freedom." The husband exhaled slowly, realizing the truth in her words. There was fear, yes, But there was also liberation. They had stepped into a world that might judge, criticize, or gossip endlessly, but they had done it together. Their love, once tested by secrecy, now faced the challenge of public scrutiny, and both understood that courage and patience would be their allies. In the days that followed, the reactions varied. Some people congratulated them quietly, admiring their boldness. Others whispered judgment, unable to accept the woman he had chosen. And some seemed shocked, unable to reconcile the image of the man they knew with the woman by his side. The wife handled it all with grace, smiling, engaging politely, and refusing to be diminished by anyone's opinions. She realized that stepping into the public eye required more than bravery. It required composure and confidence. The husband, watching her navigate the social minefield, felt a mixture of relief and pride. He finally understood that hiding her had been a mistake, and that her presence, her visibility, was part of what made their love so strong. Slowly, they began to rebuild their life with honesty at the center. Invitations that once seemed threatening now became opportunities. Conversations that once carried risk now carried potential for connection. They learned to anticipate questions, respond with poise, and let their love speak louder than the whispers. Their relationship deepened in a new way, built on shared courage and mutual understanding, no longer confined to secrecy. They experienced a richness in life that had been missing before. One afternoon, as they walked through the park, people they had known for years now greeted them openly. Some smiled, some hesitated, but all recognized them. And in that recognition, there was validation, a reminder that love, when true and courageous, could survive judgment, scrutiny, and gossip. Yet, even with acceptance beginning to bloom, challenges remained. Some friends struggled to understand, some relatives questioned their choices, and social circles that once embraced them now reacted cautiously. But through it all, the husband and wife faced the world as a team. Their love stronger, their respect deeper, and their understanding of each other more profound than ever before. That evening, as they sat together watching the city lights, the husband took her hand and said softly, "We did it, we faced the world, and we're still standing, still together." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the glow of the skyline. "Yes, and no matter what comes next, we'll face it together. Our love is bigger than fear, bigger than judgment, and that is enough." The city outside might talk, speculate, or judge, but inside their hearts, there was peace, triumph, and a newfound sense of freedom. The hidden life was gone, replaced by a life that embraced honesty, courage, and the undeniable truth of their love. The days that followed were quieter, yet filled with a new kind of energy. The initial shock of the party had faded, replaced by a tentative acceptance, both in their hearts and in the world around them. The husband and wife found themselves navigating a life no longer hidden, and with that visibility came both freedom and responsibility. Each morning felt lighter, the weight of secrecy lifted, and for the first time, they could move through the city hand in hand without worry. They could speak freely about their love, laugh openly at jokes, and be seen together without fear. The husband marveled at her strength, the way she carried herself with confidence and grace. He realized that all the effort to protect her had been only half the truth. That real protection came from empowering her, from letting her live fully and authentically. The wife, in turn, recognized how much he had loved her, the sacrifices he had made to shield her from judgment. She understood that his actions had come from a place of care, even if they had sometimes limited her freedom. Together, they began to find a balance, a rhythm that honored both love and individuality. Their home became a sanctuary, not just from the world, but a place where honesty and mutual respect guided every decision. They spoke openly about fears, hopes, and dreams, planning a future together that no longer required concealment. Friends and family, though initially cautious, began to respond to the change. Some offered support quietly, some struggled to adjust. But gradually, respect replaced suspicion. Conversations became easier, and invitations to events were now opportunities rather than challenges. They faced judgment with calm confidence, letting their love speak louder than words. Their bond, once tested by secrecy and fear, had grown stronger in the light of truth. They discovered new joys in everyday moments, sharing walks, meals, and laughter with the knowledge that they no longer needed to hide. The husband often caught himself watching her, amazed at the courage she had shown, at the way she had claimed her place in the world, and at the love that had only deepened through challenge. The wife, too, reflected on the journey, recognizing that freedom had not come easily, but that it had been worth every risk. She felt empowered, not just as his partner, but as her own person, standing proudly beside him, equal and unafraid. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the city skyline, she leaned on his shoulder and whispered, "We've come so far, and yet it feels like we're only beginning. The world can see us now, but our hearts have always known the truth." He held her close, feeling the warmth and strength of her presence. "Yes," he replied. "And now, no matter what comes, we face it together, fully, honestly, and without fear." That night, as the city lights flickered below them, they made a silent promise to continue living boldly, to protect each other not through hiding, but through love, respect, and courage. Their story, once shadowed by secrecy, had become a testament to the power of honesty, resilience, and unwavering devotion. They had learned that love was not about possession, fear, or control, but about support, freedom, and shared growth. And as the world around them adjusted, they stepped forward hand in hand, ready to embrace life fully, to face gossip, admiration, and judgment alike, with the unshakable knowledge that they were stronger together than apart. Their journey had taught them that truth was liberating, that courage could transform fear into strength, and that love, when nurtured with honesty and respect, could survive anything. In the quiet of their home, the laughter and warmth they shared now had no shadows, no walls, no secrets, only the bright, undeniable light of love, freedom, and the promise of countless tomorrows they had hidden no longer, for they had discovered that true happiness lay not in concealment, but in embracing life openly, boldly, and together. Their hearts were free, their bond unbreakable, and their story, once hidden, now shown as a powerful reminder of love's resilience, courage, and beauty.